Okay, we are live and we are recording. Awesome. Okay, welcome back to another episode of Powerhouse Leaders. This is where we drop that extra weight. We're getting rid of not only that physical weight, but that emotional and mental weight that holds us back. And we're also going to start looking and feeling our best. When we do that, we know our performance spikes, and that's what we want. We want to get some good performance and productivity and profit, right? As leaders, we are definitely looking at that bottom line, but we also want to be performing our best so we show up to our life in the fullest capacity. Sometimes we give a lot of that energy to our work and we forget the other things that are important, and that is the energy that keeps us going. And that's what I help with. So as a powerhouse leader, you know that you need to be powered on all levels. And today I have a guest who's going to go and look, I love pulling back the curtain and really discovering what's going on and what led my experts to where they are. So we're going to go deep with Dr. James. But before I introduce Dr. James, I'd like to let you know, again, I'm Stefana Johnson. If this is the first time we're meeting, I'm the CEO, that's Chief Empowerment Officer of Powerhouse Leaders. And I help executives drop the extra weight, look and feel amazing so that they lead like powerhouses. So the program that we have coming up that I want to mention, if you need help jumpstarting your weight loss, is a VIP weight loss jumpstart. And you can go to the powerhouseleaders.com website and book yourself a free call for that. And that is open now. So definitely go book a session on there. I've got 4 sessions left and I'd love for you to grab one of those. All right, so I'm going to go to James's website, but I'm going to paraphrase a few things because there's a lot to this. And it looked like it wasn't streaming. So I'm just going to see if it's still streaming. Hopefully you're live on Facebook. If you're watching us live, can you put in live on the chat and just let me know you're seeing this? There we go. It looks like there we go. We're streaming. Awesome. Okay. So Dr. James, I'm just going to call him Dr. James, and you'll find out more as to his background as a doctor. What I'm going to get into with you today as a guest is specifically around your transformational meditation. So I want to jump right to that. And then if you can just give us the background as far as you're a doctor of chiropractic, and just give us that background, because I read your bio. The things that I'm interested in sharing with our guests is specifically that piece that you talk about where someone is successful. They are on all intents and purposes on the outside, the world's their oyster. They are successful. They are having financial success, but inside they are crumbling. They are not fulfilled. They are probably waking up with using something to wake them up, and then they're using something to get them down at night. That is an indication, I know as what I do, is an indication that there's something deeper going on, and that's what you address. So I want to get to that as quickly as possible, but I do want to let people know that you're a doctor and your background, you've been doing this for a long time. So Dr. James, thank you for being here, and please share with us just kind of a brushstroke of what led you to where you are as specializing in this specific transformational mastery work.
Well, thank you, Stefana. I am really glad to be here. You are an amazing woman that I've gotten to know over the last couple of weeks from some programs we're in together. And, when you were describing that individual who needed something in the morning to get going and something to shut it all down at night, you were describing me in the 80s, because that's where my life had led me. I am a chiropractor. However, I just retired from chiropractic last year. But that was right when I was just beginning my career in chiropractic. And I should say I was struggling with drinking, with alcohol. And it was something that I was not unfamiliar with. and it just, what I learned was how to be, as they say, a high functioning drunk, so to speak. And, it's like, I knew that I needed to start drinking by a certain time in the evening and be done by a certain time. So when I woke up, I had enough time before I was in the clinic with patients to be myself, so to speak. And what's interesting? And during this time, I was involved with a form of chiropractic that looked at the emotional and mental and spiritual stresses that are stored in our body and express themselves through disease or pain. And drinking, alcoholism, addictions, those are just symptoms of that dysfunction. So what I thought I was doing fine. I was going to workshops and reading all these books, and there was just still this part that was like, I didn't want anyone to know about. And so obviously relationships didn't work because I couldn't, if I would get into them, I couldn't be my true self. And so it was real interesting. Once I got into recovery, I was talking to a friend of mine and I said, man, like no one knew. And her comment to me, looking me right in the eyes was, or so you thought. And I was like, oh my God. So what it was, about the time that I started to get into recovery, I met a type of work called transformational meditation. And my first experience with it, and basically what transformational meditation is your eyes are closed. So that's where it's kind of, you're going into another state of awareness, you're going inwards, and you're relying on the inner world that is inside, which is mostly thought, but you can create images. And it's like working with parts that don't work. And they can be beliefs, limiting beliefs is what a lot of people use. So it can be used to change behaviors. It can be used to change beliefs, thoughts. And that was my first experience with it, was to get sober. And to really, because so the thing was, every night I would go to bed saying, this is it. Tomorrow I'm gonna be sober. And only an alcoholic could really understand that mindset of, that struggle.
It's the same with food. It's the same with everything. And I'll tell you, even as a parent, this is it. Tomorrow, I will be the perfect mom. I will not follow my child when they do. Right? So, but I get it. And in all seriousness, alcoholism is rampant. We do know, and I want to address a couple of things that you stated, and that is that you thought no one knew. And I think that this is that really topsy-turvy situation where you think no one knows, but there's always that moment when they're looking at you and they think you are. And that is actually what I know that is the catalyst that keeps things stuck as well, because it's you then hiding from yourself.
Right.
And that, as you were describing, is really a way that is the internal shutting down of the deeper connection of what I call powerhouse. Now, you mentioned a couple of things, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing about the alcohol in your journey, because that journey has led you to where you are, and there's no question it's going to make a big difference for helping other people, because now that's your mission.
Right.
Will you share, because you mentioned you did a few other things, can you just touch on a few of the other actions you did try, and can you juxtapose them to why this now works and why those maybe did or did not work, or what was the difference, so that we can have a bigger picture? Because I know you did a lot of other things before this. It wasn't like you just stumbled upon this. It was like, no, you worked. And then this one was the catalyst. So if you can just unpack that.
Yes, and I think it was in one of my networking groups back in the 80s, there was a therapist. And I thought, and I'd never gone to therapist. So, oh, let me go, because I was seeing there was some dysfunction, but I didn't know where it was coming from. It had nothing to do with my drinking. And so that was what I was going, is like, if I can just get all this stuff together. And so in that session, this therapist said, oh, you sound just like ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. And so I went to that, and that was my first introduction to 12-step meetings. And it was like, oh man, that was it. Yes, I'm an adult child of, I could. But then I kept hearing in the literature saying, but if you're still having a problem with alcohol, you need to deal with that. And, I didn't hear that part for a long time. And then I finally realized, wow, how can I be really getting benefit from this if I, was not doing something about that? So when I got into that, I had to look at my friends, because the thing, as you start to drink or use more, your circle of friends have to go along with that. You can't. So it was like, wow. So it meant changes there socially, and its support system and all that type of stuff. And it was supportive. And the one, besides sobriety, the one gift that I can say with the 12-step program, the greatest gift, was a God of my understanding. Because it was like, yeah, it's my belief. Why would I believe what someone else is saying is the truth, when how do they know what God is? It's like, and that was a higher power, universe, whatever you choose to call that term. That was very empowering for me, because it was like reclaiming my birthright. It's my God-given right to determine how I'm going to relate with God. And it was like that began to open things up, to let go of some of the shame, because it was shame that was other people were telling me I was wrong. Because also being gay, there was a whole thing that I had to deal with that. So I just slowly shifted from that. But then there were just other things that I didn't know quite the skill set to how to deal with some of the other issues, communicating with people, being honest, having a relationship. And that's where I started to do other workshops, inner child work,
I
John
saw that.
Bradshaw.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
Bradshaw's work. Life-changing
Yes.
so profound there. So let's fast forward to this work that you're now doing,
Sure.
and that you're bringing to the world, and definitely bringing to the world of people that are, well, like you, successful, seemingly successful on the outside, functional alcoholics, functional, function. And it doesn't mean functional alcoholics that you have to be a functional alcoholic to work
Right.
with Dr. James, but you get the idea. I mean, a functional, and let's face it, many people are barely functional in today's culture, in today's life, because of the enormous insanity that is perpetuated on the human race on a regular
Yes.
basis. And so we're confused, but we're also losing touch, and have lost touch. And I think it's been perpetuated for a while. This is why I do what I do, is we've lost touch with our own physicality, our own
Yes.
emotional well-being, our own connection with our God. Instead of this idea, oh, it's this God that's in a box and it looks like this. And if you don't believe that, you're bad, or government, or, whatever. It's like, this is who you need to honor. This is like, whoa, no, the truth is you need to get back to honoring this wholeness, because that is ultimately where we come from. Now I'm going to stop talking, because I know I can go on a tangent. I really want to hear what you say.
That stuff does excite us. It energizes.
Yeah, exactly. It does. And it's so important, because this is really, really key. So tell a little bit more on specifically how now you are really, and you have so many tools. So my mind's going like, I know I have so many tools, but you have honed into one specific tool, and this is what you do. You're a master at it, and you help transform those people that are seemingly successful, but do have this piece, and they're clearly they recognize it at some point, because then they have to say, oh, I need help. I
Right.
need to shift this. And then you are shifting it with this amazing tool. So give us a picture of what that looks like. And yeah.
Sure. Sure. So the first step is recognizing who we are and or who one is. So it's really important with the pronouns we use, because I realize when I oftentimes will use the word you for a generalization, but when I'm speaking to you, your subconscious is taking it directly in. So I want to be as careful as possible when I'm talking about dysfunction, that to use like when one experiences this, as opposed to saying when you experience.
So this is really important, because I want to have you on and I want to continue our dialogues.
Right.
And anybody watching this, I want to get this. Look, I'm done with being this political correct, blah, blah, blah. Look, dysfunction is when the function that's optimal, that should be happening, is not happening. It's
Right.
not bad or good. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're
Right.
good. You know, forget all of that. Forget identifying as bad or good, and rise above that. That's what a powerhouse leader does. They rise above the BS, and they stop taking it all personally, and they look at, there is a dysfunction, and Dr. James is going to talk to you because you need to hear it, or you would not be here. That's what I believe in. And
Right.
things are happening faster. So
Yes.
Dr. James, don't censor yourself. People need to hear what you have to say. People need to hear about this. And I want, and don't censor yourself through it, because I also know that we receive, and anyone hearing this, and forevermore, it is my prayer, it is my intention, that they will know our intention behind this. And that is, you know what your intention is. So go ahead and say it, because
right.
we are totally aligned there.
Great paradigm. Thank you. Thank you for that clarity. Yeah. So it's recognizing who we are. And that is, you know, as Wayne Dyer and others have said, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So what happens is, and the human experience often has the negative emotions. Negative doesn't mean bad. Negative just means their energy drains. They're not resourceful. And that's how I like to look at good and bad, is to use like, is this resourceful or is it destructive of me? And so it's first to identify, who are you? Who are you identifying with? Are you identifying with these little parts of you that is this child who felt abandoned and no good and not worthy of love? Or are you identifying with this higher self who already is a master at just being, you know, already is empowered? When you talk about empowerment, it's really not about the higher self that needs to get empowered. It's about the conscious self.
Exactly.
That needs these skills.
Yes, exactly. And they have to be practiced. It's not something that is just you're synced up. And I think we're all practicing being disconnected on a daily basis.
Yes.
Picking up this phone, and we're disconnected from our truth because we're always looking for the next buzz. And this is an important concept to understand. You were mentioning energy, that there is it's not positive or negative in the way that we as humans try to label it bad or good.
Right.
It's that there's either creating a deficit or reserve of energy. And that's how I talk with regards to nutrition or movement or people that you're related to. So that's something that's tangible. You can physically measure this. This isn't woo-woo.
Yes.
It is physically measured weight, not on the scale of I ate too many brownies and now I'm overweight, but literally we can measure the physical weight of the emotion, of the negativity, of the dense, dark energy that you are identifying or misidentifying with. And that is a number that you can see on a scale. You can measure it with other tools. I
Right.
measure it with multiple different tools. You measured it by working the spine and the body with exactly what you said, where stored in the body, all this misidentification,
Right.
yeah.
Because energy can never not be created nor destroyed. So if it is a negative energy and we don't release that, it's going to show up somewhere. And in our bodies, it will be some form of dis-ease. So once we understand that not only do we have the right, and the power to be able to connect with that higher self, it's then we have, as you say, we have to practice that. So it's about learning tools and how do I stay connected with that. And one of the first things when I work with people is looking at their purpose. Because I mean, we can make it real general that I am light for the planet, but we can also get a little more specific. Doesn't matter. It's because it's our right to come up with what is my purpose. Once one has clarified that and written it down, actually has words to it, doesn't keep it in stone, but it's like it's out there now. That's a gauge to say, is this moving me toward my mission or is it moving me away? Now you have a way to, so it's neither good or bad anymore. It's like, is this moving me toward becoming more of who I am or away from? And so, and when you answer that question, it's not a judgment. It's like, well, if it's moving me away, one is, how do I get back? Right? Two, well, what was it that caused me to go away? Because there's a reason for it, and you'd want to know why. I don't like to use why because it, is like throws you back.
Yeah, you
into
want to
a little bit.
understand. You want to
Yeah.
understand so that the more you can understand, and I just want to acknowledge how calm you are. And this is an important piece to understand when you are unpacking or uncovering, like, oh, that didn't work. You don't want to beat yourself up. And I like how you communicate in this way that's gentle. That once you are clear on your purpose, and that's your gauge, all you're doing is course correcting.
Yes.
You're not
exactly.
blaming, you're not shaming, you're not guilting. Yeah. So that gentle step of that and moving forward and towards the purpose, the known purpose, that's the first step is, so you're uncovering that. Where does the meditation actually come in?
So the meditation is, and meditation is a very broad word. So basically what it's doing is it's done with the eyes closed. So you're going inwards, and I just lead you into an induction where you're at a calmer place. So your brain waves slow down a little bit. You're still though communicating. I'll ask questions, so for example, I did this part for myself. I was dealing with this piece of myself that was chatting about, oh, I don't know if I can do this thing that I wanted to do. And it was like, wow, I won't know until I do it. For what, right? But it was like keeping me from even thinking of going ahead and doing it. So I just closed my eyes and envisioned, the universe in one hand, and in the other hand, the part that was resisting, that said, I can't do this. And what I saw immediately was me as a 4 or 5-year-old standing in front of my father. And like I had done something wrong and I was being shamed, and I wanted his, but feeling unloved, because it wasn't that my dad didn't love me. It was like his little kid was shaming my little kid. And so I just turned, I had my little kid turn to the universe and ask for the truth. And the universe simply said, I am the father. That man was just your dad in this lifetime. I am the father. You come to me for all love, all, and it was like, oh my God, that's the truth. But it's like, and immediately it shifted for me. Now, transformation isn't always that quick, but it's like, wow, that emotional stuff was gone. It broke through. And now I could start looking at, well, what's my plan now to do this stuff? So you move from being stuck in the problem to going into solution. And it
Yeah.
does start with a thought.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's ultimately the root. That's ultimately the root. So why this is what I would assume is that you found a basic root, right? That started the whole thing. So that's why you were able to unravel that. And I think that, working with someone who has been through it, who understands it and can observe when it's not quite there or when you are close to it and can safely guide or navigate that journey, you're going to get far better results. So I think that is why it's so important to work with people who are competent as opposed to somebody who has an agenda or, what I used to do with cognitive therapy years and years ago. Every week I would see somebody for an hour that we'd have a session and then they'd come back and like, I don't think this is really the way to get to the root cause here.
Right.
Because we're just always, it's always just putting a Band-Aid on it. And so this is really key. And your journey as far as, so you mentioned slowing down brain waves. And, I do talk about this. I've had a few guests on and actually have talked about theta waves, alpha waves, beta waves. And one of the things that you are taking into, so meditation ideally is we are handling things, right? This quote from Einstein, and I'm totally paraphrasing, but you cannot solve the problem from the same energy that created it. So that's the concept, because energy is just a frequency. It's a vibration. It's all around us. Some are tapped into it. That's why some of the energy frequencies are coming through our Wi-Fi right now. And there's that frequency, and there's microwaves, and there's phone waves, and there's multiple, unlimited, infinite wavelengths. You are part of that, but you are not it. You are in it and it is in you, but you are part of the universe. So you're far bigger than that. And that piece of closing down someone to identify with one piece of themselves, thinking that they are that broken child, or that they are that messed up individual, or that they are that failure. Those misidentifications, dysfunctions, diseases do get caught up, but humans are resilient. So they'll push forward and push through that, and they will find ways to bury it or numb it or avoid it or neglect it, or whatever the other pieces are, instead of going head on until they know, or that it's less painful to get it fixed than to stay in the pain.
Right.
At what point did you get to that state of, this is too painful, I need to do something about it? Because you were in that comfort zone, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm functioning.
Yeah, it was, I didn't have to hit rock bottom like some people have to do. However, the pain, it was more from seeing that I couldn't keep the people that I wanted to be in a support group with near me if I was functioning at a level far below them and lying. And I was sitting, we were at a friend's house in their living room looking out at the Pacific Ocean, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and she just looked at me and she says, "So how are you?" I mean, a very innocent, but that's a very deep question, you know? And it was as if she pierced into my soul or peered into my soul. And I said, I'm still drinking. And like everyone in that room was in the recovery industry. I wasn't, but they all were. And it was like an intervention. I mean, it was basically, you got to get, sober for, have 30 days, go to a meeting every day, get a sponsor, and we will not have any contact until that is done. That, you know what, that was like, oh my God. And I did have one friend in that group when we were walking to our cars afterwards. She says, you can call me if you want. But it was like, but I'll tell you, that put the fear of God in my soul. It was like,
it makes me think, first of all, integrity. You had personal integrity, even respond and say that you were honest. And I think that that's what someone has to know. And in working at this level of working at your next level of higher fulfillment and success and performance and getting to that next level, is that there has to be a form of true integrity, personal integrity as well as professional integrity, because they go hand in hand and they are not separate. And a lot of times
right,
people think, okay, well, just because this is what I do behind closed doors, I can't tell you how many I have smelled the alcohol and it's like, wait a minute, that's like, it's not even about the alcohol. It's about the integrity. It's about, if it's like, shh, okay, I've had a drink. So I appreciate that. And I think it's important for everyone to get this for themselves, as well as in transformation. Transformation happens because of integrity.
right.
Right. And I think that that's why you even attracted the group you were involved in, is because there was a higher level of integrity. I believe that essentially at the root of the majority of humans is there is a deep sense of integrity, and there is a deep sense of knowing what is right and wrong. But we have really traveled a journey of incredible lies and corruption. And because we as beings are naturally good and naturally loving and naturally whole, because of what you just said with who is your true father, I would say, who is your true universe? Who is the true universe?
Right.
Who is the true God? Who's the true, sweet spirit? What you can use whatever name. It isn't it isn't a green dot. It isn't, right? And I think a lot of us are understanding that and waking up, but there's been a lot of giving our power away to
Right.
something not godlike, because the true father would not ask of that, would not ask of that. Instead would empower that moment for you to be able to be in integrity and say, wow, okay, now unpack that a little further and look at, well, do maybe it is the catalyst that's needed. You have to have 30 days of isolation and be on your own in order to do that. But I think that's another game. I think that's another, like, you're bad and punishment game. And what you do, and I want to say this for everyone, is to know, I mean, you can feel this with talking to Dr. James, is that there is a deep sense of compassion and empathy coming from this fellow being who is there to hold the space for you in this way, in this depth of a beautiful gift. And it doesn't have to be serious. I know I get really serious because I am passionate about the physical body and the mental body and this piece, because I think people brutalize their bodies, and it makes me deeply sad because I love the human bodies. I know it's so precious. They're your home.
Yes, yes.
But the other piece of that, and part that lives in the home and that is housed by that, is this spirit, and this sweet, sweet spirit that is in pain and in suffering doesn't have to suffer. You can have the success as well as that deep fulfillment. And Dr. James could completely support in that. And so how would people get a hold of you? And is there anything you want to say about how people would, like what steps would they take to reach you and reach out?
Sure. Well, I have a website, and on that, there's a landing page where they can give the information. Also, just to call me and text me, because I do a free 15-minute strategy breakthrough session. And it's really, come with your issues if you choose. But I realize, it's like it's not about bearing your soul, but it is to recognize that you need not fear being honest and saying, because I will respect the confidentiality of that and keep that, and also without judgment about it, because it's like there's only so many different things that we've all gone through, and it's honestly, it's just, it kind of is, if it wasn't that I wasn't in your shoes, I kind of go, how would I know what I would have done if I had been raised the way they were? It's like, would I have truly acted so righteous, from my point of view? Or would I have done the same choices? And to recognize it's like taking it from a higher level, moving to a higher level with it. And because to me, I it's in the religion I was raised, it's hard not to think of God as this person, but it's like I go, but it's like that's limiting, it's like I and I know created in image and all, but it's like there's more to it than that. And it's like whatever created this universe is bigger than this universe, and it's like, and perhaps still growing. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. But I do know that we've been given the gift to recognize that there is something and to connect with that. And I feel honored to be able to talk with someone about that. Like what we're talking about now, it's like, this is exciting. This energizes us. This is what we're about. So it's like when someone is calling me and wanting to make a change, it's like, yes, I know what it's like to be in that dark night of the soul.
Yeah. And we know that it's when we help someone else, we're helping ourselves because we're all connected.
Yes.
And this is really key to understand that you are always connected to source, to God, to chi,
Yes.
to whatever you want to call it. You are not separate from that wholeness. I always say, you're not your circumstances. You're not your identity. You're not your situation or dis-ease. You're not that. You are whole. You are the wholeness of that. That's your essence. And it's like, I'm not my jacket. I'm going to take this jacket off when I'm done with it. I'm going to put it away.
Right.
And I'm not going to judge myself based on that jacket. And yet we're judging ourselves based on so much, whether it's our past or these circumstances and situations. And I believe that we are far, far more powerful than anyone has ever allowed us to believe, because if that power, that true power source was tapped into by us, we would be unstoppable. And that
Right.
scares a lot of people. It scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the people that are scared about that are the ones that are actually doing evil, because that's what's in their inner soul. But the truth is, those that have and do tap into their power and are able to transcend and transmute those limitations go and lead far more profound and beautiful lives and have enormous positive impact planet-wide. And that's what you want to get from this, instead of being afraid of what is in you.
Right.
Discover that as an amazing gift, and that you are far, far bigger than you have ever imagined. You are not this little tiny phone. That is not you. You are limitless. That all of these digital devices and things have been made after a computer And the biggest and best computer is your brain and your body. But outside of all that is your true essence and true spirit. And that's what Dr. James is all about, helping you discover and realign to. Such a gift.
Such an amazing time we live in. I mean, truly, to be thankful that we're now. And because I believe we're moving into the age of transformation. We will see things we cannot even imagine. I mean, and they will happen. My mind goes crazy places. But sometimes, when I'm just looking out the window and looking up into the sky, it's like I imagine there's someone or some being somewhere else looking right back at me from another planet on the other side of the universe. And I'm going, it's just an instant. The very fact that I thought that to me says, yes, it is.
Yes. I think that's profound. And I think being able to talk about this and articulate this and not be said you're crazy just shows that we have so much more potential. And we're not giving ourselves credit for that strength and potential, and that we need to unplug from the status quo. And I think
yes.
that is one of the reasons we're so unhappy, and that we do need the alcohol to get us down, is because we've tried to fit ourselves. I mean, could you imagine? One of the things I hate more than anything are tight shoes.
Oh.
Because I fit my big feet. In 6th grade, I had size 10 shoes. 6th grade. I was a tall girl with big feet in 6th grade, and I would always be teased. So I stuffed my feet in size 8 shoes, and so my feet grew. And the pain that I endured day in and day out for that, today it still gives me ugh. But that is what I feel like souls are doing, is they are stuffing themselves into a vessel that is 2+ sizes too small. And of course you're going to be in pain, but guess what? You can take that freaking shoe off and it can be free to move. And that's you, that's your soul, that's your powerhouse. That's why I do what I do. I'll call it powerhouse, you'll call it transformational meditation. It is tapping back into that true powerhouse, and that's freedom. And that is life and zest and energy and abundance of it. And it's so exciting. I love talking with.
Yes, I know.
I know you and I.
I get on the edge of my chair in this conversation. It's like, and there's this, and there's that. Oh, yes, and this.
Yeah. And so fun. Okay, so just get on a call with Dr. James. Just go to his website. I'll say it right now. It's transformationalselfmastery.com. Go to his website, transformationalselfmastery.com. I'll put a link in the comments. It's not going to cost you anything to go and visit. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get 15 minutes with Dr. James outside of this interview. I'm going to get 15 minutes because this is what it's about. This soul you are looking at with Dr. James is giving and supportive. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. This is
precious.
Wonderful.
So much fun. Sending you a huge hug. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for watching, listening, wherever you are. Remember that within you is the most pure and abundant, infinite, in fact, light and power. And you can power back on, but it comes from the inside out. And if you're ready for that, reach out to me, reach out to Dr. James, reach out to whomever you need to reach out to with. It may even just be walking outside and looking in the sky and looking around and realizing where you are. Then take the next step and the next step. On your journey, may you have peace and blessings. Bye for now.